Before we start the podcast, I just want to talk to you guys about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast, and let me explain why. First of all, it's free, so you can get it anywhere, anytime, costs no money. Second of all, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, whatever device you choose. As well as that, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast too with no minimum listenership. That means a nobody podcast like mine can make money off of sponsorships. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So if you haven't tried Anchor or you want to start a podcast and haven't tried it yet, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM to get started.
You're listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast, hosted by Dylan Dillo Smith, Midwestern Ontario one and only MMA podcast, where we interview MMA fighters and voice actors like Sergeant Frank Woods.
What is up, everybody? It is Dillo, and welcome to another episode of the Dillo's Dojo podcast. This is episode 44. And before we begin with some of the MMA we've got today, we've got quite a few cards to talk about, including the explosive card that was last night. Some great finishes, including the main event. We'll talk about that in a bit. And we have some pretty decent fucking UFC cards coming in the future. So we'll get into that in a bit. But some things to talk about before we begin. I just want to say I am proud to announce that I am an official partner of W Energy. And before I begin anything else, I just want to explain what W Energy is. You'll most likely hear an advertisement for it later on in the podcast, but W Energy is basically just a clean solution to the powdered energy drinks that you guys can get, Gamer Sups, G Fuel, stuff like that. They're a healthier, way better tasting alternative of that, cheaper. Can get way cheaper with my code, by the way, but it's just a better alternative in my opinion, and they're just so willing to partner with smaller creators to get their brand up. They want to grow with you, so that's one of the reasons why I love being a partner with them. So I'm proud to announce that I'm an official partner of W, and you'll hear more about that later in the podcast. The second thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to go off on a little rant in a bit, but I almost wasn't able to record this. And let me explain. I almost wasn't able to record this because on Friday, my internet service provider fucking got EMP'd nationwide. Not citywide, not provincial-wide. The entire nation of Canada was out for Rogers services. That means if you had cable, internet, fucking phone, even, it doesn't matter. Home phone, cellular, all of it was out. Rogers was completely dead to the world. They didn't know what the fuck happened. We still don't have a proper explanation. We don't know what happened, but it was bad. Not because, oh no, I'm without my internet. Oh, I can't stand being without internet. No, it wasn't that at all. This was serious. There was businesses that rely on debit and Interact transactions that come from Rogers services. There are, for example, my bank running off of a Rogers server up on their headquarters, so I couldn't even access the application even if I tried. I'm with Bell cellularly, so I wasn't fucked cellularly, which was awesome. So for my mobile shit, I was good. But for my internet, I was completely dead in the water. My fiance had no phone. My mother-in-law had no phone. My mother-in-law's boyfriend had no phone. Nobody in the house but me had a phone. And worst of all, where I live, Bell has, hands down, the worst service. So it was kind of like a shit out of luck day for me. I was so worried because they didn't even give us an ETA on when it would be back up either. They were like, oh yeah, we're working on it. We understand that this is serious, but we don't have an exact ETA of when your connections will be back up. And it was so worrying. Some people were saying it wasn't going to be back up till Monday, so I was incredibly worried I wasn't going to be able to record this episode for you guys. It did take a while for them to get back up, but thankfully it wasn't going to be waiting 3 days almost. It still is pretty pathetic that it took a multi-million-dollar corporation that is one of the two media conglomerates that control the mobile internet and cable market here in Canada, and they couldn't fucking figure out what was going on. And it took them 22 hours for me, 29 in other people's cases, and in other people's cases, a day and a half, over 36 hours before they got any form of internet or cellular service. It was bad. And we still have no explanation, just an apology from the CEO and an expected credit, I guess, which is fucking stupid in its own right. But it just goes to show, it's pathetic because it goes to show how controlled the internet, cellular, and cable services are here. Like how two companies control it all. There's little subcontractors like Start.ca and TechSavvy and shit like that, but they're under contract with either Bell or Rogers. So they're under contract to use their servers, their towers, stuff like that. It's so stupid, man. And it goes to show how much we rely on these services and how we shouldn't be just relying on two companies for this. We should be spreading it out evenly, so then there's multiple options. So if this happens again, the entire fucking country isn't crippled, because it was. Hospitals couldn't make calls or receive calls. Businesses could not make transactions or receive transactions unless they were within cash. Online businesses couldn't even receive orders or make orders because no internet. People who work from home couldn't fucking make a paycheck. Like, it just, everybody got fucking affected. People who were on Rogers couldn't even call 911 if they needed it. So, it was a bad time in Canada. I'm sure a lot of you heard about it because it was big news and the entirety of Canada was flipping their fucking lid. But I just want to say one more thing before I, get off here and move on to, the MMA and the things that you guys came here to fucking watch and listen to. Anyway, I just want to say this before I move on to the actual meat and potatoes of this podcast. To the ignorant assholes that kept saying on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram about this outage, you guys should just go outside and just play with your friends or, have a conversation. It's not about us not having internet and us having to face the real fucking world. It's far more serious than that. As I've already explained, it is far more serious to the point where hospitals were affected. So now people are getting sick and dying or not getting the proper treatment they need. Businesses are losing transactions, so that's money that they're losing out on to keep their business afloat. People are losing days of pay from work from home because, they have no internet. So there goes a fucking paycheck that's potentially paying their rent, paying their utilities, feeding their kids. It's just, the ignorance. There were so many of them, too. So many people that were saying that exact line, thinking it was just an internet issue. It was an entire service-wide issue. Anyway, that's that for the Rogers fucking bullshit. Let's get into the fights. We had a couple of regional promotions going on Friday alone. Like 3 fight cards alone, just on Friday, happening basically at the same time of each other. And I want to talk about them before we get into the UFC. And then after the UFC, I just want to remind you about how stacked the month of July is. It is stacked. So let's get into all of that beautiful mixed martial arts. So, all on Friday, we had on Fight Pass LFA 135, Fury FC 66, which is a surprise to me because Fury usually has their shows on Sundays around like 5:30 p.m. But no, not this week. Friday, 9 p.m. they had their show, and then basically an hour after that, BFL 73 in Canada happened. So we had 3 really fucking good regional promotions, 3 of which I actually really enjoy watching. And I just want to get into the results of that in a little bit. But to start things off with the regional promotions, let's just get into LFA 135 because that's the first one that I ended up watching Friday night. So, starting the main card off was 2 debuting strawweights between Maria Henderson and Melanie McIntyre. And it was ultimately in the first round, Maria Henderson with a slick Americana from the triangle position. Like a fucking beautiful Americana. Just slapped it on. It was quick from the triangle position. Melanie McIntyre couldn't get out. and forced the submission. Maria Henderson wins her debut. Melanie McIntyre falls short. There's seriously nothing more to say about it. Watching the clip back, it's a nice submission. Like, it was beautiful groundwork from Maria Henderson. Like beautiful, beautiful groundwork. For those who don't know, by the way, I believe Maria Henderson is Benson Henderson's wife, if I'm correct. But, just with that knowledge alone is fucking awesome. It makes sense why the submission was so slick. Oh my god, it was a beautiful showing. And when you have a husband like Benson Henderson to kind of, play off of and learn from, it's without a fucking doubt why she's so slick on the ground. But anyway, if that wasn't it for you guys, the next up, we had a bantamweight bout between Rafael do Nascimento and Marcus McGee. And yet again, some slick groundwork, but this time from the Brazilian Nascimento. A slick rear naked choke within 3 minutes of the first round to just sink it in tight and force the stoppage. Marcus McGee falls to a 4-1 and gets his first loss. Nascimento, with the slick rear naked choke, moves to a 7-1 in the bantamweight division. Beautiful groundwork from Nascimento, and he hands McGee his first loss. Next up was a flyweight bout, women's flyweight bout, may I add, because there's a men's flyweight and a women's flyweight in this promotion. It's a women's flyweight bout between Gina Bishop and Luana Santos. And this was a pretty slow fight, but very razor close, very back and forth. Both girls were grinding and just showing their grit, but Gina Bishop getting the judges' nod. The judges just saw it for her in her favor. She ends up getting the split decision after 3 rounds, moving up to a 3-0 and handing Luana Santos her first loss. And if that wasn't enough, we only had 1 decision so far. We're back with another one, another finish, a bantamweight bout, another bantamweight bout between Alan Bagoso and Paris Stanford. This one was beautiful. Alan Bagoso landing a jumping switch knee that lands clean on Paris Stanford's chin and knocks him out, drops him within 45 seconds of the first round. It is a beautiful finish, and my God, I urge you to go look for it. It's gorgeous. Oh, beautiful showing by Alan Bagoso, and just a great way to get the adrenaline pumping for the card again. And if that wasn't enough for knee finishes, next up was a lightweight bout between Lucas Clay and Austin Warms. Lucas Clay landing a myriad of knees that just hurt Austin and fucking put the punishment on Austin Warms. The knees ultimately leading to a first round stoppage nearly 3 minutes in. Beautiful knees by Lucas Clay. He moves to a 9-2. And then the co-main event of the evening, Felipe Bunes versus Huáscar Cruz in the flyweight division. This also a grindy war, a grit test, a war of attrition. My God, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. This was a fun fight to watch. Both guys showed every aspect of MMA and they showed their heart, but it was ultimately Felipe Bunes who got the judges' nod. The judges saw it in his favor, at least 2 of them did, and he ended up getting the split decision at the end of 3 rounds, ending up with a 12-6 record now. Huáscar Cruz falling to a 13-10, and if that wasn't enough, we had a welterweight main event. Nothing important, just a contender bout between Alfonso Leiva and Daniel Reyes. And my God, Alfonso Leiva showing his skill on the feet, on the ground, landing power shots, but ultimately it was the ground and pound in the second round that led to a stoppage, giving Alfonso Leiva his 6th win and leaving himself still undefeated in the welterweight division. Daniel Reyes falling to an 8-2. It was a great night of fights for LFA, but that wasn't all for Friday. Like I said, we had Fury FC 66 and BFL 73. So, I mean, what else? Let's just jump into those cards, folks. Like, my God, let's go. Let's just jump right into Fury FC 66 because that was the next one. They were going on around the same time. I was kind of flipping back and forth between the two. It's kind of hard. I kind of had to glitch my fight pass so I could watch both of them, but I managed, so I'm proud of that. Anyway, The first fight of the night was Kathy Solorzano versus Gabby Lopez, and that was a fairly forgettable fight. But Kathy Solorzano, I can't fucking pronounce her name fast because it throws me off. Kathy Solorzano, I think it is, ended up just completely dominating Gabby Lopez every round, 10-9. All the judges saw it basically the same way, 30-27 on two judges' scorecards. The domination was so much that it was 30-26 on one of the judges' scorecards. It was a boring start of the night, to say the least, but all of a sudden, Anthony Parham and Isidro Gutierrez come in, and they put on a show. Both guys going back and forth. Weird scorecards, by the way, but it was again, another war of attrition. Both guys just swinging, showing both aspects of the game, grappling, striking. It was beautiful. But like I said, weird scorecards. Anthony Parham got 29-28 and 30-27, which was kind of odd to me. Well, Isidro Gutierrez got a 29-28 judges scorecard. Anthony Parham winning via split decision. But like I said, with a weird 30-27 scorecard, that wasn't going to be enough of it, though. It was just a night of decisions, basically, when Josh Dillon took on Holt Falcons. And in a very fun contest, but very one-sided, Josh Dillon's, on all judges' scorecards, gets a 30-27 decision to just completely shut down Holt Falcons. And if that wasn't enough for the decisions, Devin Brock versus Luis Yargui? Yargui? I'm going to stick with Yargui. Just complete domination from Devin Brock. Complete domination. So bad that even though two judges scored at 30-27, one of them saw the domination so bad that they had to give Devin Brock two 10-8 rounds, giving Devin Brock a 30-25 scorecard. It was a complete domination. Yet again, another boring fight. But hey, we finally got some fun. Jeff Creighton versus Albert Gonzalez. Both guys having a fun time. Jeff Creighton taking it to the ground, picking up a rear naked choke submission in round number 2. So we finally got a finish on the card. And then Jose Avalos and Tim Rician, same thing. First round rear naked choke, putting an end to the decision spree. But Gianni Vasquez and Adam Antolin, they were just like, nah, fam. We want another decision. And Gianni Vasquez just completely from start to finish in every aspect of the game. It was mainly just one aspect of the game, but in every aspect of the game, dominated Adam Antolin. And oh god, the judges' scorecards were brutal on this one. 30-26 on two of them, 30-27 on the other. Complete domination from start to finish. 10-8 on at least one round for two judges. My god, man, it was a way to end Fury FC, to say the least, I guess. That's the best way to put it. It was a way to end it, I guess. But like I said, that wasn't the only MMA we had on Friday. We had 3 cards. Obviously, BFL 73 being the last of them because it's in Vancouver, I believe. And they're like 3 hours behind us. So their 7:30 p.m. is our fucking 10:30. So I had to stay up late for this one. But it was a decent card. For a Canadian card, it was a very decent card. BTC 16 also happened on Saturday, so I also want to talk about that real quickly, and we will in a bit. But to start things off on the main card, Brandon Lebrecki, I hate French names, for the record. Not France, just Quebecois French, because they're so pompous and try hard. Anyway, against Samson Bieri, and it was a close fight. Both guys going back and forth, but Brandon Lebrecki picking up 2 rounds to 1 on the judges' scorecards, getting a 29-28 unanimous. And then, if that wasn't enough, Makinde Adiyami versus Rafael Oulet. Yet again, another back and forth fight, but Makinde just picking up his game, figuring out 2 rounds to 1, picking up a unanimous decision, 29-28 on all 3 judges' scorecards. And then we get Ash Mashregi versus James Foster, where that ended quickly with slick ground game that ended with a 1-minute rear naked choke in round number 1. And if that wasn't enough for lightning fast submissions, Adam DeFreitas versus Christian Tremaine. Yeah, oh yeah, that's easy. Why the fuck did I hesitate with that? Beautiful, beautiful. I remember this one vividly, just like the Ash Mashragi one. Oh my god, slick groundwork, right to the ground. Christian Tremaine kind of struggled for a bit, but Adam DeFreitas was like, "Nah, you're in my territory. I am a snake. You are my prey. I am going to choke you and eat you." And that's exactly what he did. Just fucking from the ground, squeezed that guillotine choke easy, and it was tight. There was no choice but to tap. Adam DeFreitas picking up a guillotine choke within almost 2 minutes of round number 1. It was quick. But alas, we have to go back to the decisions. Maxime Susi versus Josh Kwiatkowski. Weird fight where some judges saw it 2-1, but other judges saw it 3-0. Maxime Susi ultimately, though, just completely battering Josh in every aspect. 29-28 and 30-27 on all judges' scorecards. He picks up a unanimous decision win. Co-main event, Ali Wasik versus Oguzhan Yalchin. And Ali Wasik, just like the last fight, same thing. Complete domination. Maybe one good round for Oguzhan, but Ali Wasik with the unanimous decision. 29-28 and 30-27 on 2 judges' scorecards for a complete domination and unanimous decision. And then we had the main event of the evening, which was between Navid Zangena and Austin Batra for the interim lightweight championship. So this was going to determine who's going to unify it with the current lightweight champ. And Navid Zangena with the almost 3-minute first round rear naked choke, just like Ash, takes him to the ground, tells him, "This is my world. You can struggle as much as you want. I am going to get my submission," and that's exactly what Navid did. Picked up the almost 3-minute round 1 submission to pick up the BFL interim lightweight championship, and he is going to move on to unify the lightweight belts, hopefully, in the next BFL main event that happens in. But I'm definitely going to look forward to covering that because that's going to be a fun fight. But it was a great night. Kind of forgettable decisions, some back and forth fights, but really fun fight for a Canadian card. And like I said, there was one more card that happened on Saturday before the UFC event I want to talk about, and that was BTC 16 in Burlington. It was a challenger series, a lot of very unknown guys. I just want to quickly run through the results of that, and then bam, we will move on to the fight night you guys are here for. So let's get into BTC 16, and then we will jump right into the fight nights. So like I said, BTC 16 was more so for kind of challengers, people in the promotion to kind of get noticed and move on. Starting off, the fight was Keanu Young versus Cody Kent. Keanu Young picking up a vicious TKO within 31 seconds of the first round. Next up, if that wasn't enough for finishes, we had a gnarly leg injury that ended up ending Curtis Richards' fight against Matt Smith in round number 2. Matt Smith picking up the TKO. And then Ryan Yapson versus Amin Al-Malik. Ryan Yapson picking up the unanimous decision, rather dominant, I'd say, on all judges' scorecards. And then we were back to the finishes with Kevin Popowick Bastian and Charles Azule. Kevin, I love it. It's just a simple name. Kevin picking up the first round rear naked choke to get a statement on the challengers card. And if that wasn't enough, Doron Dokaj going up against Nick Klein. Dorjan, I'm just going to say that J is a silent, Dorian, picking up the third round TKO to pick himself up a win on the main card of BTC 16. And if that wasn't enough, a domination by Liam Gallagher. He said he was going to do it against Matt Dawson. Liam Gallagher putting on a complete clinic against Matt Dawson. 30-26 on one judge's scorecards, 30-27 on the others. Complete unanimous decision for him. And in the co-main event, Bobby Poultier versus Nelly Thompson. Bobby Poultier putting a stamp on the finishes for the night with a brutal TKO in the first round to put a stamp on the fight. And if that wasn't enough, the main event, Cody Chovanec versus Jake Govenrow. My God, this was not expected. Everyone was expecting Jake Govenrow to dominate Cody Chovanec. Cody Chovanec completely dominated Jake with a 30-27 on both judges' scorecards, 29-28 on one, to get the unanimous decision in the main event of BTC 16 Challenge Series 1. This is going to be the first of many, I hope, to just get the prospects up and going in their promotion. I love BTC. You guys already know this. I love what they're doing here in Ontario. Really picking up what TKO was doing and what PFC was doing, just promotions like them before them, and they're doing an incredible job at it. But that's it for the regional shit. Let's move on to what you guys came here for, the UFC Fight Night. Before we get into the podcast, I just want to talk to you guys about my new sponsor, Dubby. What is Dubby? Dubby is a powdered energy drink that is actually a clean energy drink that's made to give you a focus with no crash or jitters or any angst that the other energy drinks on the market give you. They're also made with no maltodextrin fillers. They don't use any artificial dyes or any coloring, anything like that. And on top of that, Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, nootropics, and caffeine that keeps you going. And on top of that, it's gluten-free. So if you're worried about your gluten intake, it's okay. These guys got you covered. And if you're worried about it coming out of a facility that's not FDA approved or FDA inspected, these guys, they're doing it legit. Their product's made in an FDA inspected facility and their product is FDA approved. So if you want to try any of these awesome flavors, because let's be honest, I'm about to tell you this, their flavors are all unique. You're not going to find a flavor anywhere else, only here at Dubby. So if you want to try 3 of their awesome new flavors in a starter pack with your own mixer cup, go on their website, pick the starter pack. It's $14.99. If you want to get 10% off of it, use Dillo's Dojo at checkout. That's DILLOS at checkout for 10% off. Once again, I want to thank Dubby for sponsoring the podcast. Anyway, enjoy your Dubby drink if you manage to use my code. Let's get back to the fights, folks. All right, so let's get into the fight night. We had a pretty decent prelims. We missed a couple fights. I think one fight ended up being dropped from the card, but we ended up losing Ricky Tercios versus fucking what's his face? God damn it. Ayman Zahabi, I believe. We ended up losing that to the main card, so that was kind of shitty. But hey, we still got it on the card. I was pretty happy that we still got to see the fight. But to start things off, we had a very boring fight between Ronnie Lawrence and Said Yukub Karamanov. And Said Yukub, just complete wrestling clinic on Ronnie. Ronnie Lawrence had literally no answer for his grappling, and Said Yukub with a dominant, unanimous decision to pick up the first win of the night for everybody. But that wasn't enough for wrestling. We had Kenny Nzechukwu versus Carl Roberson, and my God, dude, Kennedy Nzechukwu just surprising everybody with wrestling prowess, completely out-grappling Carl Roberson, ragdolling him the whole fight, and then in the third round, with some vicious elbows and punches, picked up a TKO of Carl Roberson. Carl Roberson just could not do anything, was just eating the damage. It was hilarious. It was awesome, too. If that wasn't enough for finishes, though, we had David Onama. My God, I was excited for this one. David Onama, I believe he's the only Ugandan fighter on the roster. And the dude's a powerhouse at featherweight. He was going up against Garrett Armsfield, and he was just piecing Garrett up on the feet. And when it got on the ground, yet again, just complete domination. David Onama was just putting it on him. And within round number 2, he picked up a clean submission that ended up, actually, it was a arm triangle that ended up putting Garrett out cold. He did not tap. He ended up going to sleep. But then that was it for the finishes for a little bit. We had Antonina Shevchenko versus Courtney Casey, one of the Shevchenko sisters going up against Courtney Casey. And that was actually a really close fight between both women, a clinic of all forms of the game. Both women were going really back and forth, very razor close. When they read out that it was Antonina that got the nod, I was a little surprised, but I wasn't mad. I could see the argument. Not a lot of people were mad about it, but my God, man, it was a razor close fight back and forth. Courtney Casey, even though she's got such a shitty looking record, she has gone against some killers and has showed absolute heart against them. And thankfully, Antonina Shevchenko, not disappointing the Shevchenko name last night. It was great. And then to cap off the prelims, we had Trayshawn Gore versus Cody Brundage. And I thought Tresean Gore was going to do better than he did, considering his last fight against Brian Battle, where he basically threw only like 4 punches and Brian Battle dominated him. But Cody Brundage, man, Cody Brundage came out swinging, hitting Tresean Gore. Tresean Gore was hitting some nice punches too, but Cody Brundage, man, with like a short right hook that just dropped Tresean Gore, and then just he followed it up with punches on the ground that put Tresean Gore out cold, man. Like, if the one punch that was coming in dropped Tresean Gore, those punches on the ground finished the job. They put him to sleep. And Cody Brundage, 3 minutes and 50 seconds in the first round, puts a stop to Tresean Gore. And that makes me question, is Tresean Gore going to remain in the UFC, or is this it for him? Like, he had a very bad outing against Brian Battle despite making it to the final of The Ultimate Fighter, and Cody Brundage, man, just completely starched him in the first round. So I don't know how this is going to go for Tresean Gore. The dude's 4-2. I feel like he kind of got fucking rocketed into the UFC unnecessarily. I think he needs more work on the regional circuit before he actually steps foot in an actual UFC octagon again. And that's just me as a fan, considering some of the records that he's going to go against. I feel like they kind of jump-started him into the UFC a little early. I think he needs more time on the regional circuit. That being said, that was it for the main card. That was it for the prelim card. We had a great main card, actually. On paper, this prelim card looked fucking incredible. To start off, man, we had Michael Johnson versus Jamie Malarkey, and as expected, as advertised, this fight delivered, man. It was a back-and-forth fight. Both guys landing bombs that were just hurting each other, man. Fucking, in the first round alone, Michael Johnson drops Jamie Malarkey, almost finishes Jamie Malarkey. Jamie Malarkey rallies back. Close to the end of the first round, Jamie Malarkey drops Michael Johnson and fucking almost finishes him. The bell rings. Second round, both guys going back and forth, hitting each other with power shots, but Michael Johnson ultimately rallying across the round. But Jamie Malarkey halfway through the round, hitting Michael Johnson with some nasty shots. And then in the third round, again, it was back and forth yet again. But Michael Johnson this time rallying with a decent round where he just had Jamie Malarkey on the back foot, hoping to pick his shots. But weirdly enough, Jamie Malarkey picking up the split decision where I feel like it should have probably went to Michael Johnson. But I wasn't mad because it was an awesome fight to start off the main card. It was a fucking back and forth war between both guys. Jamie Malarkey showed his heart. Michael Johnson showed he can still fucking swing and bang at his age. Oh my God, it was just a great fight all around. And then if that wasn't enough, we had Aiemann Zahabi versus Ricky Turcios. Aiemann Zahabi, the whole fight. Ricky Turcios throwing a lot of shots, but landing very little, with Aiemann Zahabi throwing basically the same amount as Ricky and landing a lot more than Ricky. The whole point of Aiemann Zahabi's game, and I think he won 29-28, was just stick and move, make him miss. And that's exactly what he did. He stuck and moved. He did not stay on target, made him miss every single time. Ricky was doing a good job at just moving, but every time he went for a shot, Aiemann Zahabi was out of the way. Aiemann Zahabi with the dynamic footwork, just constantly moving, constantly just back and forth, not on target the whole time. He made Ricky miss the whole time, and he ended up getting the decision win for it. Then we move on to a heavyweight bout between Jared Vanderaa and Chase Sherman. Now, before I begin about this fight, this was kind of questionable. This should have been on the prelims. I could easily say, something like Ronnie Lawrence and Saeed Yukub or something like that could have been on the main card. Not Chase Sherman versus Jared Vanderaa. Now, this was supposed to happen, I think, like a couple fight nights ago or something like that, but I believe Jared Vanderaa had to pull out for something. I think, like, weight cut was too bad. Chase Sherman was going to fight a dude on short notice, but they couldn't find him anyone, so they rescheduled it for this fight, and, well, that happened. It was a very sloppy fight. Both guys showing just how shit they are compared to everybody else in the heavyweight division, I guess. And ultimately, after Jared Vanderaa putting on the pressure of Chase Sherman, in the third round, Chase Sherman clips Jared Vanderaa, and it's clear Vandeera's hurt. Chase Sherman capitalizes on that, just puts on the fucking, just teeing off, throwing shots, landing bombs over and over and over again. I feel like Jared Vanderaa took too much unnecessary damage, but, with heavyweight, you never know. Like, you got to let these guys be warriors sometimes unless they're actually on the ground, clearly looking like they're out cold. But yeah, Jared Vanderaa just eating shots until he had to keel over against the cage, the ref stepping in, saving his ass. My God, it was just, it happened all so fast, and then it was just a brutal finish. But that wasn't it for the main card. We had a bantamweight fight between Douglas Silva de Andrade and Said Nurmagomedov. Not related to any of the Nurmagomedovs, mind you. Has worked with them and is a family friend of Khabib Nurmagomedov, but is not, related to that Nurmagomedov family. And if he was anyway, he'd be the fun Nurmagomedov, because last night, my God, he put on a striking clinic. He showed that his grappling prowess is incredible, and it makes sense because he's Russian, he's Dagestani, but his striking, man, is like next level. Every time he throws shots, it's like a sneeze. It's like a achoo, just a quick snap of the finger. You don't know when it's coming. It just lands. And his kicks, same thing. Usually with kicks, you can still land them even if you kind of choreograph them, because, somebody can only defend so fast while they're in the middle of a movement. But, his kicks, he lifts his leg up, looks like he's going for a body kick, and his question mark kick is literally like a sneeze. Some question mark kicks, you can kind of see the bottom half, like below the knee coming up towards the head, but not Saeed's, man. Saeed's is like a snap of the finger. All of a sudden, he lifts his leg. Next thing you know, you're getting clipped in the head by the fucking bottom half of his leg. It's awesome. It was just a great outing. Douglas Silva de Andrade, though, landing some good shots of his own and actually utilizing his grappling to his advantage. He made it a grind fest for Saeed. Actually, in the second round, he dropped Saeed with a nice spinning back fist, but Saeed quickly rallying back. And then in the third round, Saeed just outstriking Silva de Andrade and getting a nice takedown that kind of put a stamp on the round to get a 29-28 decision and a 30-27 on one judge's scorecards, which I didn't agree with because I think de Andrade won that second round. But still, it was a nice fight by both guys. Great showing by Saeed, and just a great way to just showcase your skill, man. It was a great showcase of all skills. Back and forth. Both guys had their moments, but Saeed just showing the absolute fun striking, honestly. And then that wasn't it, though. We had a co-main event. Curiously, I don't know why this is the co-main event. There could have been many other co-main events, but I guess Caio Borralho is making names in the UFC. And then Armen Petrosyan, who didn't even make it to the finale of The Ultimate Fighter, in the co-main event. And honestly, just complete grapple fest. Complete grapple fest by Caio Borralho. You'd think it would have been Armen Petrosyan with the grapple fest, considering his showcase on The Ultimate Fighter, but he got completely dominated against the cage, on the ground, just complete domination, 30-27 on all judges' scorecards. It was just complete, brutal domination. That leaves us with the main event of the evening, the Battle of the Rafaels. Who's the better Rafael? Also, little backstory on this. This was supposed to happen in February in its own Fight Night main event, but I believe it was Fiziev citing COVID, pulled out, and then it was rescheduled for 272. Everything was good to go. I believe RDA had to pull out citing injury, or sickness, something like that, something serious. So they rescheduled it for July. Here we are. What's finally happening? Nobody pulled out. Both guys healthy as can be, game to fight, and boy was it a fight. It was a complete grind fest. Both guys striking each other out. Rafael dos Anjos landing some decent shots on Fiziev. Fiziev too landing some dynamic kicks, man. Fiziev just showing his absolute power. Like, the punches that were landing, you could hear them. It was brutal. Rafael, though, showing his chin, and just, it was a complete war of attrition by the end of the second round for both men. Round 3 and 4 was just a grapple fest and a strike, like a clinch fest, if anything, against the cage, to just kind of grind each other out and tire each other out. But ultimately, man, it was just a back and forth fight. A great fight. Nothing too exciting, but still a very decent back and forth fight that I'm probably going to enjoy watching back for a third time. Rafael Fiziev, though, man, in the 5th round, They're just warming up in the 5th round, and Fiziev lands a punch that drops Dos Anjos, and Fiziev follows up with more punches that looks like they hurt Dos Anjos, but Dos Anjos isn't out, and the ref steps in to save Dos Anjos from any more damage. I'm a little torn about this stoppage. I'm happy. I do agree Fiziev deserved it, and honestly, if it wasn't going to stop then, I probably feel like Fiziev would have put on more damage and finished Dos Anjos anyway, but I feel like it was still a little bit of a early stoppage. He got dropped. Granted, the drop looked pretty bad, but he got dropped, and then Fiziev landed 2 punches that didn't look particularly too bad. It looked more like Dos Anjos was trying to pull guard, but he also looked kind of stunned, so I can see where the ref's coming from. And that's why I'm a little bit torn about this stoppage. But nonetheless, great stoppage by Fiziev. Honestly, it could have very well been 2-2 going into the 4th or the 5th round. It was very close, so either guy needed a finish, and honestly, Fiziev was quicker to the finish. He was quicker to the trigger, so good on him. It was a great showing by both guys, but I just don't know. I feel a little iffy about that stoppage. Maybe it's also because I love RDA, but like I said, I just feel a little bit iffy about that stoppage. But anyway, let's get into these next UFC events because they're pretty fucking stacked, man. Like, really fucking stacked. Like, let's just start off with next week. This is supposed to air on ABC. Live broadcasting. Actual fucking cable TV. Like, national TV. Let's just... Ready for this? Lauren Murphy versus Miesha Tate to open up the main card. Then Shane Burgos versus Charles Jourdain. Then Matthew Schnell and Sue Maderji. Then Li Jingliang and Muslim Salikov. Then in the co-main event, Michelle Watterson and Amanda Lemos. And in the main event, which is going to be a guaranteed banger, Brian Ortega and Yair Rodriguez, dude. That's just next week. We still have a fucking London card to go through. Opening up the London card the week after, on July 23rd, is Paul Craig versus Volkan Ozdemir, Molly McCann versus Hannah Goldie, Nikita Krylov versus Alexander Gustafsson, Patty Pimblett versus Jordan Leavitt. Co-main event is Jack Hermanson versus Till, and main event, Curtis Blades and Tom Aspinall in a contender bout for heavyweight. My God, dude. That's just another fight night. We still have a pay-per-view to cap off the month. Let's get into that fucking pay-per-view. Let's just jump right into it. Why don't we start with the early prelims, folks? We got Nikolai Negamaruno versus Elor. Fuck it. We have Nikolai and Ihor. Ignacio Bahamondes, man. This guy, knockout machine, lands some of the nastiest knockouts versus Ludovic Klein. And then we got Ji Young Kim versus Maria Agapova. Ramiz I can't pronounce it. Brahimaj, sorry. Michael Morales, which is going to be a fun fight. And then in the prelims, we have Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Drakkar Klose, which is going to be awesome. Justin Tafa versus Dontel Mays. And Drew Dober versus Rafael Alves. And then the main card, man. The main card's really what it's all about. The pay-per-view is what it's all about. I'm sure there's going to be more fights announced that are going to drop on the main card, but right now we have Magomed Ankalaev and Anthony Smith, Derek Lewis and Sergey Pavlovich, and then in the co-main event for the interim flyweight championship, Brandon Moreno and KKF, Kai Kara France. That's going to be a fun fight because both guys are incredible at every aspect of the game, but where they really shine is their boxing, both of them. Brandon Moreno has incredible boxing. Kai Kara France has decent boxing with some fucking brutal bombs, man. And then if that wasn't enough, the main event is the rematch of one of the biggest upsets since Cyborg and Nunes, Juliana Pena up against Amanda Nunes for her bantamweight title. Amanda Nunes is coming back for that strap. That is all in July. I cannot preface that enough. That is all in July. That's everything we got in July. That is all the UFC cards. We have already done 2 of the events. There's still 3 more. 3 more fucking events to go through. I don't know about you guys. But I cannot wait. I'm excited for every single one of these events. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekday. Once again, thank you to Dubby for sponsoring the podcast, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Anyway, peace out, guys, and enjoy your work week.
You've been listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast. Keep in touch with Dillo on his social media at Dillo Ross on Twitter and Dillo Ross on Instagram.